listening to the Forest School podcast with Lewis Ames and Gemma Southerden.
I'm gonna try and do the do your theme music as it
I was going to go for a yoo-hoo.
Fungi guy is a fungi guy. But I don't know the lyrics to the next bit, I'm afraid.
That's all right. I'm not sure that worthy of singing anyway. It's probably quite egotistical.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome. It's all exciting times. You know, it's particularly fungal at the moment, and people seem to be, you know, catching on to that in waves, and it's really exciting to be a part of that. So nice that people are interested, especially when it's education and the youth and whatnot.
Yeah, it is the perfect time of year for it, isn't it? The reason that we made contact with one another was because I emailed the British Mycological, is that the right word? Or
yeah, keep going, you've nailed it.
Society.
Yeah, you smashed it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Because, and I don't even know why, it was like a fungal network. I was going to say it's like a rabbit hole of Google, but it wasn't. It was like a fungal, it was like mycelium in the internet.
Brilliant.
You know, and there you go. You know, it's very deep. And I found about like UK Fungus Day, Mushroom Day, Fungi Day, and I was like, oh, that sounds cool. And as you say, very timely. Because that's coming up, isn't it?
Just mentioning UK Fungus Day, in most people's worlds, that would get a snigger because it's as if, whatever, you know, it's just like, what, give over. That's not a thing, is it? But the people who know me well enough in my circle know that if I mention anything fungal, it's usually, you know, I mean it. And so, yes, there is a UK Fungus Day, and it's coming up this weekend. And I'm really excited about it because I'm on a committee with the BMS. We'll say that it's a bit easier, a bit quicker.
Yeah.
For the British Mycological Society, and we help devise, I'm on the outreach part, and we help devise some of the content. So traditionally that would obviously help promote forest school leaders and scout groups and fungal communities to go out and do forays and do little promotions and set up stalls in places. And of course, in the current climate, that isn't possible. So we've made a ton of online content, and the truth of the matter is, I mean, I personally am almost zoomed out. I was sick of it within week 2, you know, like 6 months ago. But ultimately, if you're into fungi, there's some really good stuff. I'm dead excited because we've got some really big names who've been willing to make some content for us, and that's all happening this weekend that's coming up.
Oh, amazing. So we can put some links to that on the podcast so people can suss that out rather than saying stuff out loud now.
That'd be great. Well, UK Fungus Day has its own website. Just so you know, if you type that in, then you'll get through all the links there. Yeah, no props.
Was outreach the thing you wanted to do straight away when you got into fungi? Did you think, I want to share this, or was it a personal thing first?
No, and you know what? You'd have some brass if you thought you're going to get into fungi. The first thing, I need to tell people about this because you feel like such an amateur when you start out. How are your levels of fungi knowledge? How are you guys with it?
So we're pretty amateur. So we, like, as forest school leaders, I would say we started with trees and plants, and, you know, like 5 years ago. So as in more than knowledge we might have had as kids or growing up or whatever. So as professional people working with groups and going, hello, this is the outdoors, and we will know maybe slightly more than you and be able to help you discover this stuff. We are down the, you know, trees first, plants, birds, and small items like woodlice, you know, in that order. And then quite recently, I'd say this year, we've been suddenly much more interested in, we're always interested in fungus, right, Lewis, would you say? But like this year has been more like, okay, we're going to get serious on this now. We are going to completely skill ourselves up and try and do some idea rather than just going, wow, that's cool.
I think we moved from
it's funny. I think people must go on. Sorry.
Oh no, since I think we moved from, I think initially the first thing that, for me at least, I got was kind of like an ethnocentric version of it. So it was like, I knew a mushroom that I could use as a strop, or I knew a mushroom that I could pick to cut and show some cool colours. I knew what they could do for me. And now I've moved into just all of them are exciting and all of them are interesting, you know?
Oh, that's so, honestly, I couldn't be happier hearing people speak like that because it sounds to me, Lewis, like you're at the point where, well, the point of no return. You mentioned a wormhole earlier there, Gemma, and it is, a friend of mine describes it as this wormhole, and it genuinely never ends. It permeates all of my life, much to my family's disgust. I've got a wife and 2 kids. I went out on a foray yesterday. First one in literally weeks and weeks because we've had such hot weather. And I've been so busy with other things, but we all need those respites in that time. I'm going to treat myself to a quick stomp in the woods. And they wouldn't come with me, of course, because they're absolutely fed up of it. Because all I ever do is point at fungi, talk about mushrooms. For instance, we might be, we're in Chester Zoo. Last time we were there, and they're all pointing at the orangutans, and I'm pointing at the flower beds on the floor. I say, look at what's that? There, look at that Lepionta there growing in the flower beds. So yeah, it takes over. It goes everywhere with you, and that's one of the reasons I love it so much, because it's a hobby that's so accessible. It's all around you. So
when did you start then? What was it that got you excited about mushrooms? First of all,
it was. You know what? It's a shame I haven't got a better wow moment. That I stumbled over this thing. I just decided I wanted to go on a foraging course. So there's a foraging element first of all, and I went on a springtime forage with a chap called Jesper Launder, and I'll say it's spelt Jesper Launder. Should anyone be listening and want to look into this chap? And he became a mentor for many, many years.
Find out about CPD courses at childrenoftheforest.com. Check out the podcast links for more details.
Just for the record, it's not a big thing for me, and it wasn't that really captured my imagination when I went on it. It was a spring forage, so I was fascinated, and I still am now, about all these things that are around us that are capable of nutrition and connecting us with the nature. But it was the mushrooms that just caught me, and I'm like, wow, what's that? Hey, what's that? And I kind of had it in the back of my mind, and then it just sucked me straight in. The very next morning I went out to try and do the same as I'd done with him, and found nothing. But I didn't even know what to do. I thought having a big long stick, and I genuinely took a big long stick in the woods to poke around, because I had one book about mushrooms, and I had a basket, and I went to the local woods thinking that'd be it. Little did I know about you need to know some things sometimes, especially in spring when they're quite thin on the ground. So yeah, I just naively went into a big sycamore wood, and sycamore's rubbish. There's hardly any mushrooms grow. There's no mycorrhizal connections with sycamore. So there's your first tip. And it all started there, and I couldn't just get enough. And still, almost now, it's everything. I love finding fungi everywhere. So that's how that was about 7 or 8 years ago, perhaps. Mm-hmm. And it's a beautiful thing because a lot of community comes out of this. Obviously social media is a thing and a platform people use, and with your Facebooks and whatnot. And I'm not a massive user of it. I try and keep a balance, and probably more of a further distance than most. But in terms of community and learning, as a learning space, it's fabulous, a learning platform. Yeah, really, really great for that. So yes, excuse me, I've got things pinging all over the place.
Oh, that's right. I thought it was me. I was frantically going, oh.
Let me just shut that down right now.
Ali, would you say it's mushrooms are your thing, or the whole fungal network? Do you find yourself drawn to one or the other, or is it kind of the mushrooms are the, well, I suppose they are, aren't they?
The physical bodies.
The sexy bit.
Yes. Yeah. Well, this is it. So look, I'm not the best person to talk to for a deep dive. I don't know the science behind a lot of it, but that, there's only so much as a human being you can take on board each year with any one thing in your life. We're all trying to get a balance. I like a little bit of this, and I've started to learn how to carve a wooden spoon during lockdown. I want lots of hobbies. So I'm limited by how much my small brain can take on board. But year on year, I learn more and more. And it's overwhelming. Like microscopy, for instance, I've just not got to that. That's like the final frontier. Conservation's another thing I just can't quite get to, because I do so much else in terms of special engagement and outreach. So just finding fungi is enough for me, and would last me the rest of my life if I just chose that route. So if you meant, is it mushrooms rather than fungi? It's all those things, fungi, but the fruit bodies. I love walking around and spotting them, like I say, in my kids, by the path at my kids' school, or if it's at the zoo, or if it's a roundabout, or this beautiful ancient woodland. I just love the fact that it can pop up anywhere at any time. And it might be something really rare, and that's always special too, isn't it? Like an ongoing treasure hunt. So fungal fruit bodies are mainly the thing that do it for me, but it is, I do know a bit about this, that, and the other, and medicinally and nutritionally, and just the importance. Well, we wouldn't be here. Let's put it very, very simply. Life would not exist as it does without fungi, full stop. And that is a mind blower. I only learned that halfway into me fungi knowledge. People really need to know that we just wouldn't exist without them. And that's phenomenal.
Yeah. And obviously you make your videos on YouTube as the Fungi Guy, which we heartily recommend, having only recently watched them, and they are incredible. Like, I have watched like a fair few mushroom ID things, but they're so boring. Oh my God. Like we found, me and my family found what we thought were chanterelles in the woods behind our house. But we're like, okay, look at a book. It's like, oh, these could be false chanterelles. Do they smell of apricots to you? Oh, they do to me. Oh, well, they don't to me. Oh, how do you define smell of? Oh, I don't know. So we like watched hours and hours of videos of people, and like you'd watch a video and go, yeah, I reckon we've got it. I reckon they're definitely chanterelles. Let's just watch one more. Oh no, from that video, I'm not really sure. And it's just like, they're just sort of people like poking around on a table and like really kind of, you know, fascinating in many ways, but quite kind of like dry. And then, so I hadn't actually seen any videos like yours ever. So if anyone hasn't watched them, like definitely give them a go. And I just watched with my kids actually one you must have made quite recently, because you were talking about lockdown, and it was with a wildlife trust.
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah, and like all your little kind of cardboard props and all of that kind of stuff, I just think is so different and unique and very, very fun. And what kind of like do you do, because obviously you're saying engagement is your thing and obviously you do the videos, do you do other sort of stuff with kids in real life, like normally when it's not like lockdown times?
Well, to the best of my abilities I do. So in fact I'm teaching tomorrow, so I work in a primary school. I'm a pastoral worker in a primary school, but every year my head, who's extremely supportive, lets me take over the whole of the year 4-year group. We're a big school, like 700 kids as a primary, 3 form entry. And I spend the next day and a half now going into each class and a half day in each, do the whole half day just on fungi. And I've been allowed to do that, which is wonderful. So I've done that for maybe the last 4 or 5 years. And it's great because when they get a bit older, you know, there's certain moments they don't forget. And that's not, sorry, that doesn't sound very modest of me, but it's the fungi that, you know, they're engaging, not so much me. Because all you have to do is prod a puffball. If I tell them what's about to happen about spores, and then I prod one with my finger and it goes poof. Yeah. I mean, there's an audible, whoa. I mean, I did it really a little bit cheeky this, but I did an open mic poetry night last year around this time. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do fungi. I'm gonna infiltrate this beautiful evening of song. I've been over and sang songs there. I'm gonna do a fungi presentation. And people are going to be like, what? I just came for a glass of wine and some fun. But I trusted the fungi that I would be able to make it engaging, because I had a massive puffball in my hand and I had a stink horn that stuck the place out.
Oh,
and
amazing.
I did like an interactive quiz, true or false, fake names and stuff. But that moment, and this is what the reason I mention this is because we are so much like children. It's a big part of my whole, I don't know if I've got an ethos as such, but I'm always reflecting about how the adults can be just like children, you know, because I'm in a teaching environment for years now. When I prod that little puffball, all the adults also go, whoa! And it's hitting the radar. I'm like, yeah, because that's what fungi can do. They're so engaging. So, I just love that about them. So I'm very fortunate. So, for instance, tonight I was allowed to finish a little bit early, and I buzzed off into the woods in the school minibus to try and collect as much fungi as I could to lay out on a table tomorrow, so that it's more of an interactive, engaging experience. And I found lots of bits and pieces. So, you know, it's not a bad way to make a living in that respect.
That's amazing. That's nice. Yeah.
There are a few other things. I did a scout group as well last year and whatnot, and I've been into I've visited other schools, but that's just out the kindness of my school letting me go off and do my thing, you know, because there's no, you know, finance and money involved in that. They just know that I really want to spread the word, so they let me have the odd half day and there to go to other schools and just do a little bit of outreach there.
Do you think there's anything that is?
Yeah, just in the sort of last few weeks, we've been kind of engaging personally with like fungi as a topic, and then obviously they're all over the woods at the moment, and we have made more of a thing about showing the kids that we work with in the woods, like, hey, you guys, just before we do anything else, like, we're all going to go and look at this mushroom that we think is a destroying angel. And now, having watched your video on false death caps, we reckon it is false death cap, except though, right, it doesn't have any of the little remnants of the egg sac on it at all. But it is that glow in the dark shade. And it's funny that you describe it as that, because that's exactly, Lewis, how you described it, isn't it? When we were looking at it with kids and you were like, oh, look, it really looks like glow in the dark stars on your ceiling.
See, this is funny because I wonder if anyone at home's listening going, oh, this is
see, they're
but the Volvic sac as well, you're on about, quite rightly, but this is the variables. This is where, you know, years of experience can help get you in places, and, you know, just all part of the learning curve. That might have crumbled away. It depends how old the mushroom was, depends if you dug deep enough and all those kinds of things. So the right person at the right time might have looked at it and gone, definitely. I might not have been able to. I might have had it in my hand and gone, do you know what? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's hard. They're so variable, but that's all part of the fun in my mind.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where, like with other stuff, where we might go, hey guys, come and look at this, like Muzet, you know, there's an animal track, or there's an animal footprint. There's a thing in the woods, basically, we want to show you. And like the kids will kind of get excited, be like, oh yeah, cool. But each time the last couple of weeks where we've gone, we want to show you these mushrooms, they've remained more engaged with that as a thing than they ever have with like animal tracks or a tree doing something or a plant that we've never noticed. And we've had way more questions about mushrooms than we have about any other natural thing in the woods, I would say. I don't know if Lewis would agree, but on Saturday we were really we found stinkhorn. Not we've got quite a few of those in the woods, and it was in that like jelly egg stage. It hadn't actually like popped out yet, and we spoke about that, and it was just like question after question after question. I can't quite remember them now, Lewis. Can you remember any of them? Do you remember when we stood by the obstacle course?
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, but there was like it was a concept that they couldn't quite grasp, and they were like, yeah, but it's not alive or something like that. And we were like, no, but
grasp the concept that that it wasn't that if they picked the mushroom, that wasn't the whole fungus was part of it. They couldn't quite comprehend that it was the apple on the tree rather than being the whole, you know, going, the tree is all underground, you just can't see it. This is a really tiny bit of it. But also I think there's a thing of, you know, you and I, Gemma, have been sort of, I would say our knowledge has increased tenfold in the last 6 months about mushrooms, and that changes the way that we present a mushroom to the group. When we don't know much, we kind of go, oh, a mushroom, come on guys, let's go and do this other thing that I know more about, and I'll get a knife out and impress you with that. But because we know a little bit more about mushrooms, it's kind of like, no, I feel more confident to stand next to a mushroom for a bit longer now and go, no, I've got some stuff to say, and or to go, I don't really know about that, or, you know, it's that kind of thing.
That's really nice. I mean, of course, because it's lovely to hear that the kids have those questions. You know, I mean, that really is fab, especially from people who are outdoors with children in that environment more than most. If you know that that's the kind of thing that you know, that's hooking them in, that's great. Because they do present many questions, of course, because they look so different and smell so different and what have you, and grow so differently. I suppose that thing about what with that mushroom is it's also lovely for children to see adults not know things as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a really empowering thing, you know, and to be honest, for an adult to be honest like that and say when they don't. So the next question is, well, how do we find out? So obviously it's not necessarily practical to get a guidebook out with kids, especially if it's a little brown job as they're called or whatever. But, you know, you could obviously potentially make a spore print, and that's something that, you know, you've got to return to that mushroom then, haven't you? Or there might be a sequel to this in the next day or the next meeting. You say, look, I Googled this and I looked at that and I spoke to that guy, and look, the spore print was pink and not white, which means it must be down this one. Or you could smell the mushroom, and that might give it, and then the whole subjective thing with smells, one of my favorite things of fungi completely, if I'm with a group or leading a foray, because it can be so much fun to smell a mushroom and everyone's different idea until you tell them what you think it is. Then they'll go, oh yeah, watermelon. So, you know, there are things you could do with a mushroom, even if you don't know what it is, that can make people still go, oh, right. You know, like you say, it looks after itself. I
think mushrooms have got that thing, though, which is kind of, I would say, less so with the kids kind of see the positive of them being seen as risky. You know, that is in the same way that they see the fire and they see the bladed tools that we use, and they go, that's got some risk to it. When we show them a mushroom, there's an element of that's got some risk to it. And with children, that's like engaging and exciting. And sometimes when we have adult groups, you can see them get visibly uncomfortable and kind of go, I don't think we should go, you know, they just go, we have a blanket rule that we don't even look at the mushrooms because we don't know what they might do to our eyes, kind of, you know, that level of like.
And isn't it funny because that essentially, I mean, I'm searching in my mind for a better word for it, because I've come across this potential stance before, quite understandably, because it's easier to ignore something if you don't know it properly, and especially if it's you know, shrouded in potential hazards and what have you. But that level of ignorance is a bit like a prejudice, isn't it? It's like not knowing rather than engaging. It can only be a bad thing because you're just keeping this arm's length, and it's, you know, I don't wish to call anyone ignorant, because why would you know about fungi if you don't choose to look into them or someone encourage you to get into them? But essentially, it's like that. It's like just not wanting to understand what something else is. That's just one lost connection, isn't it? And all the joining the dots of the outdoor world, and like how lovely that's took on a whole new thing for you this autumn. I mean, I hope we get some wonderful downpours so you get some real flushes of all sorts of fungi, because when there's an abundance, that's a super cool thing too. But your forest school probably won't ever look quite the same again now that fungi is a part of it, because I can almost guarantee if you see any fungus, you're going to make that a part of whatever you're doing that day, because you can't ignore that. You can't ignore this huge stake thing on the side of a tree or that little fruit in there, because you want to tell them those dots, I imagine, that is rotting that log down. It's going to make us brand new soil, which allows us to have more life, and so on and so forth.
We've got one child who is he's got really into it, and is like collecting useful ones, and like parents come to pick up and they're like, okay, great, more of those for the windowsill. Okay, lovely.
Oh, brilliant. I hope they remember that they're there, because if you've ever put a mushroom in a bag and forgotten about it, the smell is truly rancid. It's an awful thing.
It's King Alfred cakes he keeps coming back with.
Yeah.
King Alfred cakes.
Yeah. Well, has he left any of them on the windowsill? You know what happens if you leave them at the wrong time? They completely explode with spores. Huge black cloud. Lovely. Overnight, you can come down the next morning, you'll have this big arc.
Oh, Jesus, I should give him a text.
This huge arc of black spores that have just gone, and it's exploding with spores overnight. It's really amazing. Funny. And you'll have this beautiful white patch where like as if, like a scene from a comedy film where someone gets covered in black and then they open their eyes, they got all the little white bit patches where things were covering. When you remove that fungus, there'll just be this white blob on the radiator where the fungus sat. Yeah, it's great. It's got the interest. Has he done any ink caps yet, or have you guys done ink caps?
No, we don't have ink caps anywhere nearby. So we are they mostly grassy type living?
Yeah, but they're just in scratty areas. Not necessarily. I mean, there's loads and loads, and they're quite a tricky one to pin down. You can generally say that's a listed ink cap, but it could be one of like 8, which is something you find out in fungi in general. But they have loads of different types of habitat, larger grassland, you're right, but you do have some on rotting wood and decaying wood, scratty areas. But if you see some one day, just grab a couple en route back to the site, and they'll keep for 24 hours. And you can make your ink from those. I'm sure you've heard of that. Have you heard about it?
I think we've seen some stuff that actually links into one of the things I was going to ask you, which was that sometimes I've been identifying stuff in our woodland and it doesn't match with, quite often the books will have a bit that says habitat is grassland, habitat is dead conifer logs, whatever. And I've looked at stuff and I've gone, this is growing here. And I'm going to go, this doesn't make sense to me that it would be here. And then I have to think back and I realise that it's because we've brought like wood chip in, or because that's where something goes in, and go, actually, it's not on a conifer log. It's on some, some oak wood chipping or something that you go, okay, it's actually been brought in on that.
Brilliant.
And would you say that there's any, can you see any impact of sort of humans changing the fungi in and around the world as we have, fucked up the rest of the world? Are we moving fungi around and things like that?
Yeah, because one of our parents did say that to us when we were with the group this week and looking at the mushroom, that we were like, is that a destroying angel or is it a false death cap? And she was saying to me, she has always lived in our kind of area, and she was saying that she remembers going out as a kid and gathering like baskets full of mushrooms, edible mushrooms, as a child, and doing that every year. And now, until she knows what she's looking for and she remembers what those mushrooms were, but now she sees none of those, and she feels like the stuff that she sees is more poisonous than edible these days in her experience. But we're wondering whether you know anything about that or you've noticed.
I'm not so sure. I've not been around or known this for long enough, but I've known people who haven't done this since they were children. They have an age of experiencing it. I generally don't think that's the case, and I don't know. I couldn't speak for your friend's perception, the lady's perception, but I wouldn't think that it's the case between edibility and poisonous. It's just how it works, really. I don't think that's it. Now, certain edibles, it's all about habitat. It's all about habitat, and if habitats have been lost, then yes, you can lose the fungi of those habitats. But generally speaking, it's shrinking, isn't it? All those spaces are shrinking all the time. There's no doubt about it. And industrialized farming, that's a big one, because all the fertilizer and those kinds of setups, then you lose a whole range of fabulous habitat-specific fungi, which is why ancient woodland are very special, because they are ancient relationships. So these ones that are well established. But yeah, ultimately, yeah, we need to look after our habitats. Habitat loss is the #1 problem for fungi. And like I say, that's kind of a next step for me. It's an area I think I'm just on a conscious level, I need to really investigate and maybe be putting my mind to. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what that would look like, but I need to look into perhaps a little bit of conservation work.
Yeah, I liked
Just
on
have
the
a walk
video.
around with that puffball. Just
Oh man, yeah. Oh, I love to boot a puffball. I love
Yeah.
to boot. Do you know what? I've got last year's puffball. If it's the one you're on about, yeah. Because is that the one when I was doing the little thing for the wildlife trust?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've still got one from last year under my kids' trampoline that every now and then, about once a month, I'll take it onto the field opposite and just boot it about, and then bring it home again. They just live on. I mean, I don't know if these spores are dead or living. I don't know, but it's fun to a puffball around. And I know there aren't any growing yet, in case you were going to ask.
I'll have to tell my little boy. I've got a friend who's really into mushrooms, and he showed us a puffball a few years ago, and my little boy was using it. It was like using it as a football, and then we spotted another one like the following year, and my son was like, "Oh, I remember these. I love kicking these. They're amazing." And he really went to boot it, and it just like exploded in this wet gunk, like all down his trousers, and it was just like, "Oh, okay, that was slightly more disappointing." But I'll tell him about you playing football with it and it actually helping the mushroom to release the spores, because when he was kicking a dry one around, sort of you have that sort of like adult watching a child interacting with nature and going, okay, is that okay, or is that like harming the thing that they're doing? Are they picking all the flowers or whatever, and actually booting a puffball around can be good and can help.
It's designed to just snap away and then start to roll off in the wind and do it that. So it's a funny thing, isn't it? Because watching people, like you say, be aggressive or be foolish in nature just doesn't seem to fit. And I guess maybe that's what I did. That kind of ties in what you're saying about my videos, because I would watch the same videos you did when I was starting out to try and identify things. And like you say, a lot of them are really dry. Yeah, actually, I didn't mind, because they're just walking out. It's like, okay, we're going to walk. Let's see what we find. And I think, all right, I'll walk with you. And I'd watch people just walking on leaves for like 8 minutes before they even found a mushroom. And I didn't mind. And I thought, well, if I can watch that, there'll be other people who are excited about fungi like me, but I'd at least like to make it a bit of fun. So that was the premise for me. And, I just in life generally, I don't like anything to be taken. I don't like to take myself seriously. Life is hard. Life is difficult anyway. We're not here for very long. So, I'm not some old singing, dancing guy. My wife will tell you that I'm really boring when I come through the door after a day out. But I want to make the most, and I want to put the humour in and take the pomposity out. Mushrooms, like you say, can be quite a dry experience at times. I know wonderful mushroom communities who are great fun, but it can also be quite an academic, dry start sometimes for some people. And I cannot be doing with that. It doesn't fit for me. So I did it for my own amusement. Not if anyone would get much from it or enjoy it. I do it. I do it to make myself laugh, because I like messing about. And it's been taken quite nicely, which is a lovely thing too. So thanks for that.
Well, it's a good way, isn't it, of, I think, breaking down. I think a lot of the outdoor world, we've done a couple of podcasts about this recently, that, a lot of the outdoor community is not particularly diverse, and it is, call a spade, old white men of a certain age who dominate a lot of the outdoor world. So even just making something accessible to children is a massive step in terms of bringing in new generations and going, it's not just a thing that granddad does. It's a thing that can be fun and is entertaining and exciting. And, I do think that's really important.
Well, I've got to, I wouldn't want to dismiss anybody here, because everybody, including the older generation, which is largely an academic generation and cohort, who have exactly the type that you described there, who have took me under the wing and taught me absolutely tons for no fee at all. I've just joined these link groups. They've been fabulous. But there's one cohort that I've never shown any interest at all in that fun side of stuff, the silly bit. They don't even speak of it, even though I've said it's quite a tool. There's a whole audience, and that's kind of what I'm here for. Never batted an eyelid or shown an interest. And it's not that I want to hear, oh, we love this thing, and who are you? And it's not about that. It's just that dismissal of that it can be anything. But that's not really. Is that really learning? Is it? I'm not sure.
It's not reverent.
It just doesn't get mentioned at the table, and I'm like, wow, guys, you're missing a trick here. Not that you're missing what I'm doing, but just to think that this isn't okay. Fungi need to be treated a certain way. Well, I wouldn't have that about anything, no matter what I was into, whether it was birds, spoons, making model planes. I don't know. It doesn't matter. You'd have to take the, like you say, the pomposity out. That's how I feel about these things.
Do you think that is the way that we could move forwards away from this, going back to what we were saying earlier about people being sort of ignorant out of a fear of mushrooms? Do you think making it light-hearted and engaging and things like that is going to be one of the steps or one of the tools that brings? Because I was talking to lots of other families that that we work with are from other particularly European countries, and they will say to us that, like, oh, in Italy mushrooming is huge, it's just everybody does mushrooming, everyone knows what it is. In Spain they have these huge seasons and things like that, and then it almost seems like the British public has gone, no, it's pious and I don't understand it and I'll stay away. So maybe breaking down those walls with kind of humour and levity is the tool.
Well, it doesn't work for everyone, does it? Because obviously I'm also being silly in these videos that I make, and the way I choose the tone I take with lots of my posts, because there's lots of everything else, every other type of delivery and education is there, isn't it? And I don't want to do anything the same if I can help it. And not that by any means I was some trailblazer, I'd just rather it to be a bit of fun and not take myself seriously. So silly isn't for everybody. I would definitely agree with that. But I think making it engaging and fun, it's a no-brainer, because how can that not make things more accessible, especially to the next generation? And isn't all everything, and especially nature and the world, isn't it all about them? Everything's about the next generation, isn't it? So you'd be missing a trick to not try and at least engage them. And genuinely, the beautiful thing is fungi do that with the colours and the smells and the names and all these things. And, they're so engaging, interactive that, the vehicle in themselves, and I'm just a facilitator of it, I suppose. So, yeah, I do think that is certainly, it's not for everyone, like I say, it's not, but and that's fine with me, some people get it, some people don't, but mostly I think for the next generation, yeah, I think they dig it. And kids like to see adults being silly a lot as well, of course. I think they like to see adults not take themselves too seriously, because lots of adults in their lives tell them what to do all the time. So that's also a nice thing, I think.
Applications for Forest School training are now open at childrenoftheforest.com. Check out the podcast links for more details.
Yeah.
And in your face-to-face work, have you ever come up against, so one of the things that we got when we showed the families in our woods, what we thought were death caps, and we were saying that we think it's this, we've sort of idea. And each time we went with the books and got the families to help us and go, will you double check it with us? Does it look like this to you? And the two questions we kind of got were like, well, is it safe for us to go and to go and see it? Should we even be engaging with it? And second was, well, what are you going to do with it? Lots of parents saying, are you going to get rid of it now? Or are you going to take it out? Are you going to, what do we do? Do you want me to kick it over and smush it? And we were going, no. What are you doing?
Well, look, I've not read it. I've skipped over this over the years. I've come across articles of where this, like you say, this intrinsic fear of fungi comes from. It's funny because some of our kids don't know where. I work in quite an underprivileged area in inner city Manchester, and some of our kids, if I asked them, and they're like 7-year-olds, wouldn't know where beef comes from. They wouldn't be able to name the animal, whatever. Yeah, I could say mushrooms, and nearly all children already know that's not safe, or you must be careful, or don't eat that, don't put that in your mouth. And I wonder, because I don't remember having that conversation with my kids, but I bet they'd have thought that if they didn't have a dad who knows about fungi. So it's strange that, as a generic, blanket thing, people think that mushrooms are dangerous. And I know a guy who does fungi forays and the likes, and he said it's amazing because he will meet deadly plants on a daily basis. And he only ever meets a deadly mushroom maybe once or twice a year if he's lucky. I've only met deadlies. I don't meet a deadly every year. And I meet thousands of fungi. You know what I mean? They are not a common thing. Of course, it would be horrible to stumble across them. But why would you eat it anyway? You can't even make kids eat mushrooms in food. You serve them. So, you'll have these conversations far more than I. But, I think if you just put a handful of most leaves from your garden. I was talking to a wonderful mycologist last week from America, Dr. Gordon Walker, fascinated by fungi. He's huge. He's got 250,000 TikTok followers for mushrooms. You need to check this guy out. Incredible. And he was saying, even just a handful of most leaves from most plants in your garden, if you put them in a dish, would seriously damage you. I mean, there it is. Plants and leaves are damaging and poisonous. And they're all around us, yet it's the fungi that get the bad name. So yeah, that surely equates to just education, doesn't it? And just learn about it. Don't put it in your mouth. Simple as that. And then you can enjoy them, and you can enjoy them also for what the benefits, that the reason why they're there. Yeah.
Yeah. My little boy had a question for you, which is related to this topic. He's 8, and he wanted to know: have you ever accidentally eaten a poisonous mushroom?
No, I haven't. It's a really good question, and it's good because that's what, obviously, like you say, hooks the kids in. Oh, it's dangerous. I want to know more about this. No, I haven't. But the first time I ever ate a wild mushroom of my own accord, very confident. It took me a long time. For some people it's years, some people it's days, maybe foolishly. But for me, it was months and months, and I was absolutely certain it had to be, and it was this one mushroom. And I was quite sick the next day, and I really panicked. I got a bit of a sweat on. But ultimately, it was fine. It's just I'd eaten too many because I found such a glut. It was oyster mushrooms, by the way. And knowing now, there's almost nothing there's always something. There's nearly always a doppelganger. But there was almost nothing I could have mistaken it for. But that seed of doubt. I would say this to anyone who's thinking of foraging. It's not a big thing for me. The food element isn't a big part. But for anyone thinking of foraging, you really have to know, because the seed of doubt is worse than, I've speak to a lot of people who've eaten them for the first time.
Psychosomatic.
That seed of doubt could be psychosomatic is a huge part, and that's partly what it was for me too. I was getting a sweat on and thinking, hang on, and I'm reading all the literature, and you're suddenly drowning in Google, and you're like, why did I even bother? It's just one meal, but it's the I can do this, I can cook this, and I found it. This is me. I was very careful, and I was absolutely fine. The only thought is perhaps that in my head, I was just sweating in my head, which I'm not a panicker. I'm not one to worry normally, but maybe it just got the better of me, and maybe I ate too much. You're only supposed to have a certain portion. I had it for the evening meal, and then I had some more for breakfast because I was giddy as a kipper. I just overloaded. And again, it was a foreign substance that's never been in my body. So people can have reactions to mushrooms. Yeah, anyway, as a first time, you should always take a lot of caution, even if you know it's a good edible. Always take caution.
It was the first story I got actually from a parent the other day. Was I just on the way to walk to a mushroom, and they stopped me and went, "Did you hear about?" It was so vague, this anecdote. They were like, "Did you hear a few years ago about that group of mushroom hunters who 6 of them, and they all ate mushrooms and they all died, mushroom experts?" And I went, "No, but I mean, by sheer numbers, they're probably going out and eating mushrooms every day, aren't they? They're probably,
listen, if the clincher there is if they said mushroom expert, because then they weren't. There's only one mycologist ever to die from eating fungi, to my knowledge, and that's because it took 40 years to kill him, because it was an accumulative toxin. It's something called the brown roll rim, and apparently they still sell them on the continent, because if you treat them right, you can have it. But your body, everyone's got a different tolerance. This is vaguely speaking. I don't know the ins and outs for sure. But if you keep on, eventually your body will turn on you, and then and so that's the only person that I've ever heard of a mycologist to die.
That sounds dangerous.
They wouldn't take.
I think we should just steer clear of mushrooms.
Don't do it. Don't even poke them. But brown roll ribs, they're everywhere. They're a good one to find when you find them, because they look amazing underneath. Sorry, this is no fun for people just listening, is it? But they've got a pie crust edge, as Jesper described it to me, my mentor, and it's like when you pinch a pie around the edges of the pastry, it's got this pie crust edge, brown, and then you turn it upside down, it's got this rolled rim. That's why it gets its name from, and it's just a beautiful thing. And they're all over the roadsides, especially. They seem to like that. Paxillus is the genus. So a quick description of a mushroom there.
So do you have a favorite mushroom, or is it whatever you find that's exciting you at the time?
It's a good question. It's funny this, because I've done something. I've started to interview, or I plan to want to do this. I've started to interview some of our senior mycologists in the country, because ultimately they are quite senior. There's no other way of saying it without being rude, really. And they've shaped some of mycology is in England, because in the UK, because there wasn't much of anything. It's been a very swift uptake in the last 40, 50 years, and these guys had a part to play. They've written books, they've determined genus, new to the world, new to science, species they found, and they're just these humble little old people, and I wanted to document that. So I started interviewing some Myco Heroes. In fact, I need to put it out. I've put it on the. I've put it
one.
out there.
I've seen one of them.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so I've started to do that. I've only made 2, and then the film crew who kindly did it for nothing, I can't ask them to do it for nothing anymore. So I need to find a film crew who'll do it for free, and then I can interview all these amazing people. But the point being, I asked the same question, hoping for a great answer, and they both gave me, and they were filmed separately. They didn't discuss or anything. They both said, "I love all mushrooms. I couldn't give you a favourite. I love them all, and especially just a pristine of anything, a pristine, beautiful, perfect one of anything." I have a favourite genus, I suppose. I love boletes. You know, the big chunky ones that, if people are familiar with, the ones that have the sponge underneath, that, you know, porcini come into that one, that's or set, as people might know it, penny bun. There's just someone describes them as chunky, homely shapes, and they are, you know, maybe it's the kid in me that we all like big fungi, you know, because boletes can get pretty big, but there's something so solid and robust about boletes, and they're a good one that you can almost always identify. There's some genus where you just can't work it out. You narrow it down and it ends up, it's still one of like 16 or something. But within reason, with the right books, you can just about find out what it is in your hand. And that's mostly you can do it with lots of them, you know. But even if it's a tricky one, you can get there in the end. And that's always nice to know when you've spent an hour trying to work out what a mushroom is. So yeah, I love the boletes. I love everything about it because the color changes, the sizes, where they grow. Yeah, boletes are a great family. I like those very much.
It's interesting you're saying that you prefer, the experts were saying that they preferred the pristine version of anything. As you said it, I'd never occurred to me before, but I think I find the slightly nibbled or smashed up mushrooms slightly more intriguing to me, because I feel like there's more of a story. Because then I look at it and I think about, who's eaten a bite of that and then wandered off? Or I wonder if they didn't, you know, someone's eaten the side of this one and then kicked it over. Why? And I say someone, I mean an animal, whatever.
Not a child that we weren't keeping an eye on enough.
Normally Gemma, she doesn't have like
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? You see it and it's like a little detective game of like, why didn't they eat the whole thing? Surely if they found a food source and they liked it, but that's quite a big bite. Why would they have taken such a big bite? And I can't see the bite, so they haven't spat it out. And you know
what? I bet you're a very good forest leader. You must be. Like, those are good. What a wonderful inquisitive mind to
The kids aren't there. The kids have run off. The kids have run off to do something else.
You're just on all fours. You're just on all fours staring at this mushroom, turning it around in your fingers. Yeah, I just that's brilliant. I love it because, like you say, there's a little backstory. Maybe I've seen enough slug nibbled. The only thing that can still intrigue me is it a slug or is it a squirrel? Because I found a squirrel with a bolete in its I was going to say its hands. Paws? Does a squirrel have paws or claws? What does a squirrel have?
Both.
Is it paws with claws? Yeah.
Wings.
Squirrel with a bolete in its claws and its paws, and holding it and just chomping away. And it was a good sized bolete.
Wow.
I'll have to post that again because it's an amazing thing to witness. And it's like, yeah, we do share these mushrooms with other creatures. It's not just slugs and stuff. You know, it was having a proper meal on it. So I like quite trying to identify whether it's the teeth marks, you know, because I would always have just thought, that's a slug. You know, you can see all these little pock marks where the slug's been having it. But it's like, I don't know, this might be a squirrel. So yeah, there is a little backstory. But I do like that you said there, Lewis, that, you know, what's going on for this mushroom? What's it lived through? That's quite cool. I like that very much.
And watching its different stages as well. So because we went back to that same mushroom at the bottom of our woods every day for, you know, a week, and seeing it when it was really pristine and being like, whoa, that's beautiful. And also that really helped me this week. It was like a penny drop moment where you have to look at guidebooks and you go, okay, well, maybe it's that, but hang on a minute. The one in the guidebook is like really kind of dome shaped at the top, and this one's really flat. And I was like, oh, they changed shape. Of course, it's obvious when you think about it, but you know, that dramatically, you know, that something can be completely, dome shaped. There must be a word than that. And so watching it do that and then go and then decay as well and go the other side and seeing things nibbling it and seeing the is it the stipe? Is that the proper name for the stalk?
Yeah.
Getting like kind of thinner and more draggly and weaker and then like flopping over, and watching all those stages. Well, yeah, it was a penny drop moment for me because I thought, oh, okay, that's like another whole element into the whole IDing of lots of things that might look very similar, and the little brown jobs, as you say. But not only that, you've also got like about what stage of their life are they at.
Yeah, you've got a life cycle, and and suddenly you are you're more considerate of something, you're more engaged with it, aren't you? Because there's a life cycle here. You've seen it from start to finish, especially if you'd seen it from its embryonic stage almost. And of course, then as well with experience, you'll say, "Hang on, look at it now," and you might realise that this could pass as a such a thing or as a such a thing, but only because I saw it earlier in the week do I know that it's that.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, that's all part of this whole piecing of the jigsaw puzzle together when you're trying to identify any fungus. So yeah, that's cool. Out of interest, did you say your stinkhorn eggs recent? Are they around? Have they blown, or are they still eggs?
Yeah,
Still eggs.
one that's still an egg.
I mean, obviously, it depends how you want to do this, but I've done a stinkhorn race in the past where you can plant them, because there's enough energy now in the egg, it can be taken from its spot, and you can put them in a plant pot and have two. And I've labelled them in the past and have a little bit of a race online, and everyone picks the winner, who's it going to be. And you can watch them and watch the growth, and suddenly you'll come one morning, poof, they've gone, and who won the race.
Wow.
So yeah, and apparently if you cut a stinkhorn egg in half, you could try this before I do. You cut a stinkhorn egg in half, you'll get 2 stinkhorns. And it's someone I really trust and respect who knows the mushrooms. She says you can cut them in half, and I almost couldn't believe it. And I said, does it matter which way you put it down? She says, nope, it'll just find its way up. So there's a little thing you could try with the kids, perhaps, to show them.
Do mushrooms? I mean, I know it's very weather dependent in terms of you need a lot of moisture in the air for them to sort of swell up. But I've heard with plants that you can sort of track. I think it's the seasons go up particularly the UK. You can go, all the daffodils are coming out in Cornwall, and now they're coming out in London, and now they're coming up. And does that stuff happen with mushrooms up and down the are we going to get certain things before you get it up north? And
absolutely, so Scotland are always finishing their season goes on a bit longer. Absolutely. So I'm part of something called Mushroom Spotters UK, which is a wonderful, for anyone who would like a good place, it's a really welcoming. I don't do much Facebook, but I hear that I know it can be a toxic place and whatever, there's always swings and roundabouts, but I know those guys work really hard to make it a friendly place where people feel welcome, because fungi are so intimidating. So as long as you go in politely, say, sorry guys, I've took a few pictures, I've tried my best, could anyone help please? You'll nearly always get an answer. And it's a huge group, so it's really hard to make sure that, you don't get missed. But those guys are all talking to each other all over the country. And when the first mushrooms at different points through the season are coming through, so you get your springtime ones, your morels and your St. George's, they're in London, okay, well, they're coming up. And then you say, where are you? Where have you posted this? And they're trying to gauge, it's coming to me soon. So yeah. It does make its way to the country like that at times. Certain fungi do indeed, just the same. Because the St. George's is a good example of that. Because for us, it's the St. George's mushroom, of course. So St. George's Day, so April 21st, something like that.
Sounds about right.
And in Germany, it's called the March mushroom. And Mills and somewhere else, it's called the May mushroom. So it's literally making its way around through the continent.
Wow.
So it's got a different name depending on where it is. That one particularly. Yes, so they do come up in waves like that, depending on climate and conditions.
Support the podcast today by becoming a Patreon member at childrenoftheforest.com. Check out the podcast links for more details.
Have you done mushrooming in other countries much? Do you tend to go abroad and go, I'm going to go on a foray?
No, I've not been. I went to Wales in the summer and found my first death caps, which was great. Do you know, I've not been abroad since I got into mushrooms. I've not been abroad for years. I did a lot of traveling as a younger man and lived abroad here and there and saw some beautiful places and whatever. And then when I came back, I settled in with a family, and I've never really had the inclination. I've just really enjoyed this space, this country for what it is. And I hate long car journeys with kids. I'll be honest about that as well. I cannot be doing with going more than 2.5 hours in any direction with a car with some kids moaning. So actually,
give them a stinkhorn egg each in a pot and just sit it on there.
I think that might get me more complaints than that. The car journeys can be smelly enough anyway, can't they? So yeah, no, I haven't. Is the answer to that? It would be. And it's funny because obviously I will see things and experience things if I went to other countries in theory that would just be, wow, I've seen in books, but, could be in England, could be in Britain, but still just on the continent. Because things come through each year that have never been found here before, because as we're getting warmer, we're more like the continent. So some of the continental mushrooms are coming up. So, things come through each year. So obviously I could go abroad, but do you know what? I'm not in any rush, and there's not a desirable. I've got to see the Caesar's mushroom just once, because there's so much I haven't seen in my country yet myself. It's not like I'm getting it's a bit repetitive. That's it.
Yeah.
An interesting point. It's not repetitive yet. I mean, if I could 150 buttercaps in 2 days can be a bit, it's a buttercap, it's a buttercap. But next year I'll be excited about a buttercap again. It's not like, I won't ever look at that again. I've done you. And because every year, and this is a fact, guys, every year I know this, till I die, I will find a new fungi every year. There'll always be something new to see. And that's what a hobby. It's just so exciting to me that. So I genuinely haven't got any interest in going abroad. I've never even thought about it. First time that question's been posed, I've never felt the need or the desire to, because there's so much here and so many exciting fungi that it's not felt necessary.
I've got a mental image of you getting patted down at customs and just spores coming out like a big puff.
Oh, well, I did bring mushrooms back from a market in Spain once, and was it Spain? Yeah, it was Barcelona, and I bought these amazing mushrooms, and I had them in like a brown paper bag in my hand luggage, and the customs bloke in Spanish was basically like, "What is this? What are these?" And was really like, I was like, "Oh no, I got them at the market. I don't really know how to say that in Spanish very well." And he really like grilled me, and then he went, "I'm joking. Enjoy them. I bet they're going to make a really nice dinner."
That's real. I love a little bit of humour in a tense place. I love that. How great when you get people who are willing to do that. That's very funny. That I think. I will say this about like I said, a genuine thing that I've never considered going abroad to fungi, but we have, I'm bigging up our own country here, but we have wax cap sites. Are you familiar with the wax caps, guys? That won't be on your radar quite as much, being forest dwellers. Have you heard of them or know of them?
I've heard of wax caps, but I don't know anything about them.
Yeah. So basically, they're more of a grassland species, and they're one of those that habitat trouble because it's got to have been established for over 60 years, thereabouts, the grassland. So it's ancient pastures that are sheep grazed, usually cattle grazed, with no fertilizer, no industrial farming. So those spots are quite few and far between, but we have them here. And we have the best wax cap sites in Europe. More sites than something like Denmark, Holland, and Germany put together. And so those mycologists will come here on holiday to look at our wax caps.
Oh, cool.
Every kid's football training the other day, and it's off to a local graveyard because that is ancient grassland too. Even in they call it God's acre, this wonderful acre of ancient land where you've got these established relationships. And sure enough, there's one of the rarest wax caps around, and it was just during my kid's football training. I thought, I've seen enough of that. I'll go and have a look at that cemetery I passed on the way here. And sure enough, there's this beautiful ballerina wax cap, this pink one, and people come over from abroad to see these specialists. So they're on our doorstep, guys.
So
don't need to go anywhere just yet.
Is it a bit like Top Trumps? Do you get kudos for taking a picture of it?
Yes, of course people do. There's no doubt about it. But again, that's why I try, if I can, to be a bit more self-deprecating in my tone, because no one likes to show off, do they? And there's lots of stuff being posted, and beautiful porcini. That's one of the king's ones because people love to eat them as well, and I do too. I must say, I love to find one. I love it when I do, I should say. But if I just post everything I found all the time, it just look like, oh, there he is again. So I'm selective about it, and it might just be something that's cool. Often is something a bit rarer because there's so much of everything else anyway. I might have just spotted something that someone hasn't come across. Just that's through experience, of course. So yeah, there's a lot of kudos for that. And it's really great fun. It's wonderful when someone who's new to it and experience saying, "Hi guys, this is one of my first posts, but I found this unusual thing," and we all know, go, "What? That's incredible! We've been waiting 10 years and we've still not found it." So it depends how it's done, of course. Like most things in life, it depends how you present it. So
yeah.
But generally the fungal community, like lots of nature people, it's not really showing off. It's just sharing. So yeah, there's definitely kudos, and then the big Michael guys who are good at it, it's like, how does he keep finding those things? But that's because he puts the the legwork in. They're the guys that are doing that. My biggest bugbear is if people, I don't usually say these things out loud, but if people say, "Oh, you're a jammy bugger," "Oh, you lucky guy," as if it's always me that finds them. But you don't know how many man hours we spend. Some of these guys that are finding really nice things. There's a lot of man hours that we don't post because that'd be boring. It's just empty fields and empty woods. You've got to be in it to win it, as they say.
You get 8 minutes of watching someone walk through the leaves.
Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, and suckers like me and join in, like, oh, what's he going to find? You never know.
I'd be remiss, Ali, if we didn't ask you. We've got a particular kind of interest and reverence on the podcast and amongst our listeners for slime mold, and just have been in awe of slime mold for quite some time. Is it something that you've looked at or worked with, or?
Oh, do you know? No, it's not, and I should know more. You'd be honestly, genuinely, because again, there's so many avenues you can go off here, and I just try. I'm very much, oh, am I right? Superficial, get me. I'll scratch the surface of all of them. I love to just know a little bit of that, and then I move over there. So I've never really done a deep dive on slime molds, but I mean, they're phenomenal. Like I say, you could probably teach me. Have you done the Japanese subway system? Have you done that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's something else. Well, you'll be interested to know. There's a free screening of The Creeping Garden. Are you familiar with that?
No.
It's a slime mold film. I think it's made by an English mycologist called Jasper Sharp. And as part of the UK Fungus Day this Saturday, it's being screened. You do need a ticket, but they're free on Eventbrite because there's always there's a limit to Zoom, how much we can put on a screen for everybody. All the other content will be put up afterwards, but I don't know if we'd have the rights to his film. But he's going to be on for a Q&A afterwards. 3 massive slime molds experts.
Wow.
So I should be with you. So it's called The Creeping Garden. I think it's 9:00 this Saturday night. And then Jasper Sharp, the director, is going to do a Q&A. And then a guy called Bruce Ing, who's a massive slime mold expert. And I think we're going to get Stephen Murray maybe doing a photography workshop or ID workshop about slime molds. Check out, I've made a poster. I'll send it to you guys and you can maybe attach it to something, all the rundown of what's going on that weekend. So yeah, slime molds coming your way. So what's really caught your eye with them, or do you just love how bizarre they are?
Yeah, it's the bizarreness. It's the whole. We're halfway through Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake at the moment, and there's loads of like moments in there which are the same kind of moments that you have with slime mold, where you just go, it's like a brain explosion. You're like, but that tips on its head everything I thought I knew about like life and planet Earth. How can that be? How can you do that without a brain? Where is the brain? How does that what is intelligence and all this kind of stuff? It's just like, yeah.
Isn't that wonderful? Well, look, on that same note, we've managed to get Merlin to do a live arts talk in the afternoon, the Saturday afternoon. That's another one. So he's talking to other artists. His brother, Cosmo Sheldrake, if you're familiar with him.
Yeah.
There as well. So we've got these guys all doing a live one again. So the tickets have only gone out tonight. People don't know about it yet, so you could probably still get one quite easily. So I mean, there's another thing, Entangled Life. I bought 2 mushroom books last week, and I'm not allowed, I can't justify buying another, but I've got to get Entangled Life because I'm going to learn so much from it too. Yeah. I mean, it's getting such good reviews all over the world. So he's obviously, really tapped into people's psyche to understand and awareness. It's fabulous. What a dude.
It's not as funny as your stuff, though.
Yeah, that's why I'm happy to leave it for now until he starts taking the mick out of himself. Do you know what I mean? Unless there's some weird puppet in it. Whatever, dude. Whatever. We've heard it all before, Merlin. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think we'll probably leave you to get on with your evening because it's quite late. But is there anything else that you want to share? Anything? Because obviously we'll put links to the UK Fungus Day and to your YouTube stuff.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's cool. I don't know if I have anything else to say, really. I've probably talked too much anyway, really.
No,
You've been
not
very
at all.
kind, so thanks, kind with your words.
Absolutely.
There are other, I feel like just sharing about other people's expertise. Lots of other people. There are some other YouTube channels for if you're into edibles and whatever. There's some nice ones, Wild Food UK, and some people make some good stuff. I'm not sure what to say about that, but thank you very much for that. All the same. That's it. I've had a lovely chat. Thanks, guys. Thanks for inviting me on. It's been lovely. And of course, if you need any ID, help, just send me photos. I'll always try and give it a go if I can. I'll always give it a go. And you're allowed. Oh, this is a little thing for people. Then it's okay to pick a fungus to identify it, especially if there's a bunch of them. If it's just one, you might want to leave it alone in case it should be something rare. But I'm really strong believer in the case of education. You need to handle, smell, look at it. And so for the purposes of ID, I often get sent pictures. It's just a cat. I haven't got a clue. I can't begin to say unless I see the gills and the stem. So it's okay to pick because, if you're washing your hands, you should do that as good practice right now anyway. And more of the problem would be pathogens and bacteria than actual danger of touching a poisonous mushroom. So pick, look, explore, learn from it. And if you're taking a picture, definitely do all those things for me, or else it's really hard to ID a mushroom. But I'll help anyone who sends me a picture. I'll always try and help. Okay.
Awesome.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, Ali.
Yeah.
No worries. Thank you, guys. It's been lovely, and I look forward to listening to some of the your other podcasts. I was going through there what you've done, and I need to find some time there. I'm going to make that part of my morning routine on my way to work. Try and listen to some of what you guys have been up to. It's been lovely.
I've just booked my creeping garden ticket because there aren't many left. So, Gemma, do it before we put the podcast up.
I can't. It's free. It's my daughter's birthday on Saturday, and we're going camping.
Okay.
In the freezing. So you just have to fill me in. Yeah. Remember every single thing about slime mold from the.
It's my son's birthday on UK Fungus Day. And he always has to miss out. We always have to knock it on a weekend because I'm always doing too much. So he's always missing out. Yeah, you're not committed enough yet, Gemma. Not until the kid's missing the camping.
Sorry.
What kind of no? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Brilliant, guys. So will this go out before the UK Fungus Day?
Yeah, let's do it.
Put it on this Friday. It's normally sort of.
Well, why don't we do it now, Lewis?
I can do it sooner than that.
No, like right now? No, I don't mean right now.
Okay.
I mean, let's do it as soon as possible, and then people have got time, haven't they?
That'd be great. And there's even a pub quiz Friday night. A massive pub quiz, proper fungi and mushrooms, and I think that's probably going to be very good on the Friday night for people to join in with. Cool.
Amazing.
Real.
Right. Well, thanks so much.
Thanks, dude.
Thanks, guys. Lovely to meet you guys. All the best.
Cheers.
Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen.
If you like this podcast and want to support more episodes, you can donate through Patreon. Visit patreon.com/Children of the Forest to show your support for the Forest School podcast.